House of the Dragon Season 2 wrapped up a couple of weeks ago, and well, I was listening to a bunch of reviews, and I've talked about my adoration for the first season, and well, after all of the reviews that I've consumed and looked at a bunch of the discourse online, it's not as good as Season 1, go ahead and give you that, but a lot of it came down to the writing. Okay, for as much of the discourse out there as, oh, it's boring, oh, I needed to have more battles, a lot of people are falling back into the trappings that gave you seasons 6, 7, and 8 of Game of Thrones. I don't want to see that, okay? What made House of the Dragon Season 1 so great were those early Game of Thrones political trappings, those quiet conversations, those small council meetings, which were abundant in Season 2 of Hot D. You don't need those big bombastic set pieces. I'm not saying that I don't want to see them. Dragon battles are awesome and cool, and the one in Episode 4 was fantastic, properly acknowledged as the high point of the season. But I won't say, everything was all hunky-dory and that the public perception of this being a slower, pathetic, garbled mess of a season. I will not go that far. I also won't say that it was totally purposeless and that nothing happened. There was a lot of stuff that happened. Daemon's scenes over at Harrenhal, where he went through a complete and total character arc, the best of the entire season, was incredibly important in setting up the stuff that happens there, is very necessary. And if the entire vision for Season 2 is allowed to be carried out by Ryan Condal and the crew, perhaps we wouldn't be talking about Season 2 in the way that a lot of people are talking about it, because there's another bit of this conversation that has come out in the aftermath of the season finale that, HBO kind of butchered this season. Game of Thrones put out 6 consecutive seasons of 10 episodes. House of the Dragon fans are frustrated with Season 3 update that further exacerbated the forgettable second season saga. That's not fair. A lot of stuff happened. The dragon seed's very important, and I will admit, and this has been an idea that has been floated around out there, that perhaps if you would have swapped episode 8, some of the trappings of 8 with some of the trappings of 7, if you would have finished on what was the final scene of episode 7 with the final scene of episode 8, which there was no saving that final scene of episode 8, you would have ended on a higher note. And he wouldn't have ended up with what a lot of people perceive as just simple wheel spinning, with now it's going to be all-out war. This time, instead of in Season 2, it's going to be Season 3. But just because I'm a little bit more accepting of a more contemplative season doesn't mean that I'm not going to hear out the complaints of the people that wanted something perhaps a little bit more substantive. There are obviously the people who've read the books, who know the upcoming battles, and I've done a little bit of research. I know some of the broad scoping things, most of the ends of a bunch of the characters. Like, I know a bunch of massive events that happen, because, well, I don't think this is a spoiler to anybody. There's not exactly too many dragons across Westeros during the time of Game of Thrones. Like, okay, we pretty much know how this is all going to wrap up, and that Daemon isn't exactly sat the throne at the time of Ned Stark. It's not exactly too much of a stretch to realize that a lot of these people, they're going to end up dead. But in totality, it was really lost in Season 2. I can understand if you're coming at the season with that lens in mind, but I do sympathize with the people that are pointing out that, for six consecutive seasons, the ones that people generally refer to as the good ones, even though I have some issues with 5 and 6, there were 10 episodes. Okay, why couldn't we have that with this show? Well, it was supposed to, but HBO came in and made some interesting and bad decisions, to be completely honest. So let's take a look at this. Okay, Game of Thrones' expansive universe returned to HBO with high expectations as a prequel to the main events, titled House of the Dragon. However, fans of the show are increasingly frustrated because of recent updates on Season 3's release do a little to nothing to quell their concerns. But when it comes to people who know the source material, who have read Fire and Blood, they also know that, Season 3 is really going to kick off with something, and it's also going to conclude with something. And there might be something in between that, is going to also scratch that political itch as well as be fairly bombastic. So, why couldn't we exactly get that with Season 2? Interesting. They were quick to draw comparisons to the reliability and consistency of its predecessor, A Game of Thrones. However disappointing the last season may be, it is commendable for a show of such high production value to have 6 consecutive seasons of 10 episodes each. Yeah, back in the time when you used to have, fairly high budget shows crank out 22 to 24 episodes per season. But don't worry about that. Game of Thrones set a standard that House of the Dragon struggles to meet. And the prolonged wait, along with an underwhelming second season, has turned many fans sour. And then you show stupid Massaria, who, definitely has turned a lot of fans sour because, well, she's just a bad character. Fans were rejoiced when, they knew House of the Dragon would return for a third season. Production for season 3 is set to begin in early 2025. Holy crap, we're already at that time. So the release will likely be in 2026. But if you want some more A Song of Ice and Fire content in early next year, you're supposed to get Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, which is the dumbest name for a series I can possibly imagine. It's the Dunk and Egg stories. Those are supposed to come out in the early months of 2025, so that'll be pretty cool. And that is definitely a big change of pace from the big bombastic dragon battles and the political machinations of early Game of Thrones. Is a much more, not really lighthearted affair, but it's different. If you've imbibed with the source material, you'll get it. And if not, you'll be pleasantly surprised, perhaps. The original series, made the fan base accustomed to a rapid-fire delivery despite its amazing set designs and complex world buildings. It's clear that House of the Dragon struggles to maintain the same momentum, plus the lackluster nature of the Season 2 has only increased dissatisfaction among viewers. Many fans have vented their frustrations online in regards to the 10-episode season. After a nearly perfect first season, let's pump our brakes a bit, okay? I would say it's probably an 8 out of 10. I'd put it firmly behind the second season. Like the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, very good. Probably 9s. I would give them 9s. Season 3 and Season 4, I'm not really that hot on. Season 3's pretty good. Season 4 is quite hit and miss, and then everything after that, it's just all kind of in a jumbled pile over there in the corner. But yeah, Season 1 of House of the Dragon, very, very good from what I'm hearing, and I just want to get a legitimate copy of Season 2 of House of the Dragon before I firmly give it a seal of approval, but I've watched so much content on it and seen comprehensive breakdowns on it. I'm fine saying that it's about a 6. Probably on par with my assessment of Season 5 of Game of Thrones. But in jumping ahead to this article, what did HBO change and what was cut? Well, I'm going to try to dance around the spoilers that are here because I think that this is important. House of the Dragon Season 2 only had 8 episodes, causing some pacing issues, but the original plan may have been a bit different. House of the Dragon Season 2 ending, in particular, has faced criticism, much of which is overblown. The Queen Who Ever Was is currently the second lowest episode of the entire show on IMDb. It's not worse than The Bells and The Iron Throne. Okay, it's not worse than The Long Night. Just stop it, okay? It's not worse than Beyond the Wall, okay? Where Gendry decides to do his best Sonic the Hedgehog impersonation. Like, just stop it. You guys are freaking out. House of the Dragon Season 2 was renewed shortly after Season 1 premiere. At the time, no episode count was given, but it was assumed it would be a 10-episode installment. Yeah, and there was rumors that George R.R. Martin and Ryan Condal wanted 12 or 14 episode seasons or something like that. And then it originally got chopped down to, you can have 10 episodes, 4 seasons. And then, now it got chopped down to 1 season of 10, 3 seasons of 8. Like, wait, what? However, in March of 2023, Deadline reported that Season 2 would consist of 8 episodes, and the belief of the original plan had been 10. This itself came 2 months after the scripts to Season 2 were finished. According to writer and executive producer, oh my god, the least talented hack on that entire staff, Sarah Hess, as a Deadline reported, that came amid the cost-cutting measures at Warner Bros. Discovery. God damn it. However, they also cited an HBO spokesperson who said it was for story reasons. Oh, great. Of course, House of the Dragon is a large, complex production, and various other factors such as time and production difficulties will be accounted for as well. And that's not to say budget was the sole reason. Yeah, because they had the big bombastic battle that everybody loved, which is like the second or third highest rated episode of Game of Thrones, which it could very well be. Well, no, it's not going to be that high because it's not going to be better than Watchers of the Wall, Blackwater, or even Baelor. Like, let's be completely honest, okay? Like, that's got a lot to crack, or Reigns of Castamere for obvious reasons, but I'd be better than Hardhome. I know I've been hard on Season 5. In an interview, ahead of the Season 2 release, Hess told Entertainment Weekly that it wasn't really our choice. We had to reduce the episode count, though she did not divulge any more details. It is possible that means the reason was budgetary. Of course, House of the Dragon is a large, complex production, and various other factors such as time scheduling and production difficulties royalties will be accounted for as well. And that's not to say that the sole reason. It was important to note the WGA strike was looming at that point, albeit not confirmed. It began, yes, in May for 4 months, and the scripts were finished. 2 months for the shorter episode count was revealed. Martin himself also commented on the strike and how it pertained to the House of the Dragon Season 2 scripts, and it's not a blog site. Shortly after the WGA strike was officially announced, he wrote, "I have more time to work on my books, but lol, I'm never going to do that." Now, the scripts for 8 Season 2 episodes were all finished months ago, long before the strike began. Every episode has gone through 4 or 5 drafts and numerous rounds of revisions to address HBO notes, my notes, budgetary concerns. But yeah, with all of that in mind, so HBO cutting it down to 8 episodes, the strike impacting that, the budget having to impact that, knowing that, yeah, there's going to be some big old battles that are going to be taking place in Season 3. Theoretically, well, the season's going to start on a big one that everybody's marching towards. And there's going to be a lot more CGI because guess what? There's going to be a bunch more dragons in the upcoming seasons. If they're worried about budget right now and there was only one big battle, doesn't really bode well for the rest of the season, meaning that they're going to have to stray away from the lore. And whenever somebody affiliated with working a show from the J.R.R. Tolkien's bitch, George R.R. Martin's works, yeah, it doesn't end up boding well for their reputation and then also the audience's adoration. So yeah, this is Warner Brothers Discovery at their absolute dumbest, because this is a show, man. It's their moneymaker. It's their biggest draw. Over 8 million viewers for every single episode. No other show on cable is doing that type of numbers. No other show is driving this much coverage in the aftermath of it. In a time when every other streaming service is just simply squirting out content, there is appointment viewing as much as you can have in the current landscape with House of the Dragon. But you guys are going to want to squander that just because you're going to want to try to make it fit into an arbitrary box. I don't know, man. It doesn't really seem like a great strategy, but this is the team that did do House of the Dragon Season 1. Love it or leave it. For all of the low points that Season 2 had, there were still some tremendous highs as well, setting up a bunch of stuff that could theoretically happen in Season 3. I still have hope, but now, with all of this stuff coming out, I'm also a little bit more skeptical than what I was heading into Season 2, going into Season 3 in 2 goddamn years' time. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.